All right, so as with all of my videos, this is unedited, unscripted. 9 days ago, I decided to take some time in stillness in what one might call, or at least I called, open-eyed meditation, clearing my mind and allowing whatever thoughts to pass over me, not dwelling in them, but allowing them to happen. During that time, I focused in on the fact that since I had a surgery back in um, into February, so I was recovering through March, I pretty much since I got off of the painkillers have had alcohol every single day. And I didn't like that. It's not like I was drinking, a fifth of liquor a day or anything, but it had become something that was not only normal, not only regular, but habitual. And in a year where it's so clear that there are things outside of our control, things that we don't get a choice in, that was something where I could exercise my control. So I decided to take a sober October, 31 days, or I guess 30 days, starts on the first. Sure. And so it's been a week, and it has been hard. It's been harder than I thought. Well, part of the reason I ended up doing this was when part of meditation, at least the way I do it, and to be totally brutally honest, and I don't think I've told anyone this, I learned some of how I practice meditation from the book Eat, Pray, Love. Straight up, yeah. But part of how I observe it is rather than trying to completely clear the mind, I sort of set an intention and allow myself to be. And if the only thing I can think of is my shoulder hurts, I'm going to allow that to set the pace. I'm going to allow that to be. I'm going to be in it and absorb that. And even while doing the meditation, it was actually really hard for me not to bat off that thought that I didn't need to make a change, that it was fine to keep having a couple, 3, 4 alcoholic beverages every single day. And that's part of why I realized that's shouldn't bat away that thought. That's something I actually need to evaluate. So shortly thereafter, it was a day that I actually did get to talk to some friends, and a friend of mine whose name begins in the letter A, and I don't know how public he wants me to be about using his name, so I'm going to stick with just calling him A. He and I were discussing the possibility of me doing this, and I'd already kind of committed to it, but part of what made me feel I really needed to commit to it is how much it felt like a thing I have to do. And he said, well, it's not a thing you have to do. Not drinking isn't an activity. Drinking's an activity. And that's completely true. And it has been a way that I've had to reframe things, reframe habits, reframe where I set my default. So yeah, we're at a week in it. In some ways, it's easier. There's really no social pressure to speak of because my social life consists of very few people who, and I know there's this like idea that some folks have, like, oh, I've got my pod of 5 people who also have their 5 people, and eventually that's just all humans. Uh, but I do have a few people here in Austin who I actually do spend real in-person time with. But there's not social gatherings, and none of those. Well, one of the few I do spend a lot of time with very frequently, our activities were drinking, and I talked to him as well, and he decided to. I was telling him that I know I need to do this because I'm concerned that it's going to be hard for me. And he said, well, then I'll do it too. which was just super giving of him. I didn't propose it. I wouldn't have thought to ask that of anybody, but his support's been really good, partially because he's a friend that I've grown accustomed to drinking with. But, honestly, that's not the core of our friendship. Our friendship is that we enjoy spending time together. And that doesn't really require any form of liver toxicity to do. Speaking of physiological stuff, I have noticed that I've had a stomach ache basically every day since I started. I've gone through some Alka-Seltzer, not like eating them like candy or anything, but I've had one or two glasses when it's come to be kind of icky on me. I've found that some of the muscle pains that I would get from, sitting too still for too long, that I'd grown accustomed to relaxing by the muscle relaxing effects of alcohol, I've had to address otherwise. And if I ever got up in my videos, which I don't feel like doing, I would show that I have a foam roller over here. I've gotten to hot baths, and I've also gotten to the point of really setting reminders, like literally in my work calendar, take your eyes off your screen, walk, remove your tongue from the roof of your mouth, because that tension, I kind of was letting it build up and letting that just be a thing that alcohol kind of let me get rid of. And without that, I have to engage in other habits. Sleep's been weird. This weekend, I slept. I got to bed really early because for whatever reason, when you're not drinking, you don't really stay up. And it's not like alcohol's a stimulant or anything, but there's just something about it where you tend to drink and stay up longer than you would sober. But I found that instead of being awake till 2 a.m. and then sleeping till 7 a.m., that I was instead going to bed at like 9:30, waking at about 8 a.m., having a cup of coffee and falling back asleep till about noon on Saturday and Sunday, which was honestly really pleasant, but also not what I expected, as I've read other people's reports of taking some time to lay off the booze. Increased quality of sleep is supposed to be something. I haven't seen that. I don't know if I will, but I guess you don't necessarily get all those. The tummy aches have been annoying though. I have found myself thinking of what actually constitutes a treat to me, because I think for a lot of my adult life, it's like, oh, I'm going to treat myself. And the immediate thing is like, oh, that's going to be something alcoholic, because that's how I tell myself that I'm an adult who spends my own money. And that's a weird and much broader societal thing. Also, and I can't believe it took me 8 minutes to get into this video before I mentioned it. 100% of my social media ads are for alcohol since, and I don't think they were before. That's the bizarre thing. So I might have mentioned sobriety on Twitter. I definitely didn't on Instagram, and then on Tinder, I put it in my bio, and immediately all my ads went from being. Also, this is really bizarre that like other dating services advertise on Tinder. I think Talkify is a big one. Like matchmakers advertise on Tinder, and this phenomenon has always confused me. It's sort of like how you hear podcasts advertising on other podcasts, or Audible advertising on podcasts, and it's like, this is like another TV show advertising during my TV show to try to get my attention away from the thing I'm watching. Like, why would you have this kind of advertising? It's a direct competitor. It's like your Marvel comic book has a DC comic book advertised in the page. Anyway, I don't know if comic books have ads. Whatever. They have to, right? I don't know. Anyway, so Tinder's ads as soon as I put in my bio, because as if I'm meeting up with so many people, because I'm not. I'm not, because it's pandemic, and I'm also not because online dating's really tedious, and I don't know if it's gotten worse or if I'm just less patient with it. 100% of my Tinder ads are now for alcohol, all of them. if you put the word sober in your Tinder bio, all of your Tinder ads are going to be for alcohol, just straight up. And on Twitter, at least, I've been blocking the ads because I actually do engage the feed and scroll through Twitter. With Tinder, it's just like I just close the app. And with Instagram, I've never been a consumer of Instagram. I basically I don't follow very many accounts on Instagram, and I don't use the feed. I use it as a way to filter my pictures, which are lately of there's like sunset and a lot of bridges. I think my Tinder's or my Instagram's like 80% bridges at this point. But anyway, that's tangent with the social media ad thing. But it is really bothersome that it's like they bought the tag sober and want to convince people out of it. And I hope that's not true. I hope that's not a conscious marketing decision that was made and they just decided, hey, single dudes in their late 20s are probably going to be our core demographic to advertise alcohol to. And that it doesn't have to do with that. But there was a marked change in what was getting advertised to me. When I decided I wasn't going to drink alcohol, it all became alcohol. And that's not cool. So yeah, reframing this whole idea of treating myself. One of those is these things are kind of expensive. I don't know. They're less than a beer, especially less than a beer out. Like looking into my own finances, it's like, man, I've spent more money than I can actually justify drinking in public places. And with the pandemic, it's like, oh yeah, it's cheaper. And then I think I spent the same amount of money and just drank more, which is worse. So this is I've got a low battery, so I'm gonna sign off soon because I'm not gonna deal with plugging in my computer. Treating myself has largely come down to exercise, eat stuff that I legitimately enjoy. So I got a ton of fresh fruit, this being the most obnoxious one. This is the largest pineapple I've ever seen. It's the size of my head. And I don't know why Pixar is on pineapples. Why? Anyway. Also, Dole has a very problematic corporate history. So treating myself without using alcohol has probably been the biggest reframe in my habits, really thinking of what would make me happy right now that isn't put some ethanol in my veins. And that's probably a better thing in the long term, but it's been hard. But yeah, that's as far as I'm going to go. It's about 13 minutes, and I'm 1 week in. I think I can do the other 3, and I don't know that I'm going to stop on October 31st, but I definitely do think I'll make it there.